how to break free from the system without destroying yourself. One of the biggest reasons individuals ended up destroying themselves is a strong way to put, but getting themselves in a compromised situation is that, like me, or like a lot of us out there, get fed up with what's going on in the world and then decide to quit the jobs without a plan and or make sudden abrupt changes in their life without having followed a more methodical kind of diligent kind of plan of action, and then or they just too quickly without enough financial resources, they just unplug completely, they quit everything, and they start to just become very militant about fighting for social justice. Hey, I understand. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and that's how I feel. Exactly. But the reality is those actions, if it's taken too in a very like abrupt way, without thinking, without planning, based purely on in the heat of the moment, I'm afraid it leads to burnout. And you know what? Who benefits from you burning out from trying to disengage from the system? Not you. And you know that. So none of us are going to benefit from just really, facing a brick wall because we are financially attached, plugged into the system. So I think like there is a huge aspect here to really consider that perhaps incremental steps is the way forward, or perhaps a hybrid way of disengaging and disconnecting until you are in a situation in a standing, at the very least financially, is a way to start. It's about really the incremental steps that you take towards that goal, right? On the other hand, there is this other group here that instead of fighting for social justice and then just wanting to disengage completely and with put a big slogan that all capitalism is toxic capitalism and so on and so forth, we have the opposite. There are some, not all, but there's some who choose to completely disengage with the material world. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna say this, and I don't mean to upset anyone. I do have spiritual beliefs, and I don't mean to throw shade in anyone who have a spiritual life of any kind, regardless. I believe that we're more than we are in our bodies, but there are some individuals who then, considering all that's happening there, which I understand is overwhelming, but then they start to completely bypass their physical experience, bypass what's happening in the life and the world around them. I'm sorry, but like I can't just sit and meditate for 20 hours on my day and then like sleep the rest and then hope that everything's gonna be all right, because in my opinion, I'm just one person, but I think that we are here in a physical body, in a physical world, because we're meant to engage with the surroundings and the environment and the people, and included what's going on in our lives. And we were born in this body with this brain, with this ego and those emotions of ours, in my opinion, is so that we can understand and learn to experience and create and evolve with all that, embodying what we're learning, not bypassing and just kind of, let's hold hands and sing kumbaya and pretend that nothing is really happening. I'm feeling like, and I know that this is gonna come across like I am criticizing a certain group of people. And you know what? No, I'm not. And I think even in spiritual circles, there are those individuals that they say like the love and light community, and those individuals who never talk about anything else rather than love and light, which is fine. Who doesn't want to talk about love and light? Of course. But the reality is we are here embodied in this body and in this world and this amazing, beautiful planet that really needs us to pay more attention to what's going on, because we need it. We're just being hosted here in this planet, and we need to look after it better. We need to look after our bodies better. So I think a balanced approach is so much more meaningful and so much more powerful than either go all crazy, all whoop, I'm gonna quit everything. I have no plan. I'm just gonna go crazy and then end up broken with in a difficult war situation that you are in to start. Or go to the other hand, I'm gonna transform myself. I'm now my spiritual person and I no longer deal with those matters. I don't want to get involved. And I feel like, how exactly that's benefiting you really? Yes, you're making stand, but is this contributing for a bigger, larger society? Because on one hand, if a person ends up being burned out and in a worse off situation, either physically, mentally, or economically, or on the other hand, this person's doing nothing, they're just opting out completely. How any of those two scenarios support us, yourself, and society? I'm sorry, but I don't know how that does. I'm sure there is small elements of it that somehow are, of course, positive, but you can see how it's not sustainable. And I think the way I see, and hence the name of the video, without destroying yourself, means, implementing a more like conscious, a more kind of, intentional approach to the whole process, in my opinion, is the way kind of forward. And I keep saying my opinion is because I'm talking about this, and this is such a hot topic, you know, everyone is talking about, and I think it's with a reason because it is important. It's about our world, the planet we live, the systems that are at play, our life, and how we're being manipulated, and so on. And you know what? A lot of us, if we could just click a button and opt out and then be in a completely different situation, we would be. But we're here, we're incarnated, we're here in this body, in this reality, and we need to deal with. And I guess it goes without saying that freedom is not about running away or avoiding dealing with the reality, but it's about understanding how it works and learning how to navigate this world, those systems, without really being controlled by it. And I think a good way to start is to have like three pillars where you can rely on. One is pay attention where you focus on, what you be focused on. Because if you focus too much on stuff that's outside yourself, media, the issues that are happening out there, you're giving away your power, your energy, so on and so forth. If you start to focus more on what you can do, what you can do today, for example, to better your life, to improve your health, to better yourself, that's one way. So where you focus your energy, stop being distracted. But all the fear mongering, all the chaos, all that's going on, bring back your sovereignty, your ability to choose, your ability to decide what you want to pay attention to it today, right now. And the second one would be to learn about understanding and managing your emotions, because again, the majority of people do live ruled by their emotions. I think all of us really, to different extent. But the key here is not feel your emotions, numb them, suffocate them so that they blow up in the wrong time, right? But learn to understand, learn about emotional intelligence, learn to, have control of how you feel. And again, I couldn't stress this more. There is no benefit to your life to, by control your emotions, understand that, oh, I'm just gonna not express, just control, just stuff down everything, hide there. Because I hope that people would have realized, unfortunately many people haven't yet, and if you do this, all you're really doing is self-sabotaging, because I'll walk around a person full of little blind spots that's so easy to be triggered. And that's my whole point. Because once you become aware with the good, the bad, and the ugly, everything that goes on inside of you as concerning your emotions, we all have, you are much less vulnerable to media triggering, to other people triggering. And this is huge. This is just huge for your mental health, for your emotional health, for your peace of mind. And seriously, this is like huge. So it would be the second pillar. And then the third pillar for this plan to be able to leave the system, but without really feeling like you're destroying yourself somehow, is gradually but surely learn everything you can about finances, about your financial situation. Many of us grow up in times or in societies or in structures that never taught us anything about finance, how to budget, how to understand the currency that we use. If you are in that, and try to prioritize resolving the situation, paying that off, and avoid getting into that, because I think there is a lot nowadays of individuals who feel so powerless. And you know what? I empathize with them. I understand that. So, for example, you have a job, you work really hard, and then you want to buy that nice thing. Amazon is so easy, right? It's just a few clicks. You can order, in a few hours, is in your doorstep. But think, just think. It's not about becoming like stingy, but it's about really understanding how that's gonna really contribute to your plan, contribute to your ability to, remove yourself as much as possible from the system, but without destroying yourself. So if you work towards increasing your financial understanding, regardless of where you stand, the reason I'm not saying too much on this is because, first of all, I'm not a financial advisor, obviously, but second, because there is such a spectrum of individuals. There will be individuals who are in debt, and unfortunately they never learn how to budget. There are the individuals who actually understand budgeting, but they have credit card debts or they have student loan debts, but they are not paying attention to the interest rate. So, they're still spending a lot. There are other individuals who actually they have a good understanding, or they have been through financial hardships, and they have understood the consequences of acting in certain ways with credit card, with loans and so on. And they are in a way learning more about. And I feel like, it's not fair to just throw blanket statements, but if I can say one thing, is that a third strong pillar is understand your financial situation. Try to educate yourself more about, look at your options, understand the market that you live in, regardless of the country you're in, how it works, in terms of how can you, as a normal average person, survive, benefit, pay off your debt, maybe increase your income if possible, in a way that is intentional. I want to say hardly anyone these days, at least in few countries, I don't know how it's like around the world, but many individuals cannot afford to have a plot of land anywhere. But I know that a lot of people can have a little box where they can put by their kitchen window, and they can start to cultivate simple things like small, simple herbs, or something small, who knows, something that is easy to cultivate, that doesn't require a lot of light and doesn't require a lot of investment, but somehow start to invest in ways that you can develop skills. So, for example, some people, they like knitting, some people, they have a sewing machine, and they kind of use that to make their own clothes. That's one way to be less plugged into consumerism and buying fast fashion, because I appreciate that being financially stable in a position where you can buy from sources that are more sustainable costs a lot of money in the days we live in. So if you can make your own clothes, that's a good way to go. And by no means I'm saying those things as in I am already there. I'm not saying that. I'm just giving examples of things that I consider myself, and then I think, based on what I have researched, that are good ways to start to establish a strong base for yourself. Because without that, I'm trying to say that true independence comes with slow and sustainable steps going towards achieving your goal, and not by rushed and impulsive acts of rebellion. And I think there are a couple points here that are so important for me to highlight as well. Again, it's a nuance aspect, but I want to say that oftentimes we see two groups. One group who, in an unfortunate situation of being completely plugged on the system and wanting to really break free from it, but they end up just trading that from another system, or whether that's I don't know, some other system of power, ideology, or something that somehow keep them restrained, keep them controlled, and unfortunately, I have seen that happen, and it's so sad because out of desperation, I think, and people feeling powerless, they think they hear something that is different, that somehow is not the same narrative they keep hearing here from the mainstream, and then they think that that somehow is better. But it's not always the case, you know. So just be cognizant, be aware. If you're not just, you know, trading, being here in the matrix, right, and completely hooked up and suffering from something else that will actually have somewhat a negative impact in your life and is also controlling you, whether that's ideology or something else. On the other hand, as well, I think in the past I have fallen for that, and it's like thinking that you have to do everything alone, and thinking like I don't need anyone, I'm gonna just do everything on my own, and not realizing that we need other people, we need collaboration. And the reality is like true freedom really comes from understanding how to moderate your own emotions and learn to collaborate and work sustainably with other individuals as well, and seek out like-minded individuals. And I think if you take nothing else from this video, these last 3 points I'm going to mention are the deal breakers on this whole situation. Because think like this, like I said before, your attention is like one of your biggest assets. There's so much we can pay attention to, right? We have to focus our attention to something to make it reality, right? So if you want to build a project, you have to give attention. You have to constantly work on it. So yes, essentially giving our attention, make it reality, right? If you want to cook a nice meal, you need to pay attention to it and pay attention what you're doing so that it being a nice meal. And yes, I just compared a huge life existential issue with cooking a meal, but just, you know. And paying attention where you are focusing, this is huge. Assess your digital life, your interpersonal relationships, what's going on in your life, and really be considerate, be intentional. I think the word would be like be an essentialist. What is really essential from me to give attention right now, considering the goals, what I want to achieve. The second one is really two in one, to be fair, is really working in your mental and in your physical health. Because I think like the world we live is just so much that goes on. It really fry our nervous system and make all of us feel so like overwhelmed, overloaded, and just so much information to process, so much all the time. And me personally, this is something that I had to work so intentionally on it. So create pockets of spaces in your day, cultivate environments that feel safe for you, have safe space, have moments in your life. This is so nuanced and varies so much depending with who is listening to. So I will leave it for you to decide when, what, how. But create safe spaces where you can feel recharged, where you can regroup, you can assess yourself, understand what's going on. How you're going to do that, that's obviously entirely optional. There is meditation, there is journaling, there is walking in nature, there is just staring at nature through a window. Even that. There were days in my past that my life was so busy and so crazy and chaotic that the only contact really I had with nature is when I sat at the train in the morning in my commute and I looked through the window and I would see the trees, basically, because I would go to work, it was dark, and I would come back from work, it was dark. And in the weekend, I had so many chores and so many other things to deal with, and I was also studying. I didn't have time for anything. It was very overwhelming. But those moments that I used in my commute with headphones on, with the calm music, so I couldn't hear the chaos of the full, train, that everything that was going on, and I would just look at the trees and look at some green and some nature. And so, likewise, whatever your circumstances are, take steps into prioritizing your mental health, your mental independence from the system, And if you feel like you are addicted to, or you're too dependent in any media or anything, perhaps take intentional steps towards pulling a little bit back, a little bit and often. It doesn't need to be sudden, or whatever approach works for you. But be aware of it, and take steps into becoming mentally independent if you already not do that, but to cultivate more and more an ability to critically evaluate situations, news, information that comes in your hand. That's such a vital skill, especially nowadays where a lot of things that we want to know, people just go to Google or AI and ask a question. But I think it's so important to maintain your ability to think critically. Trust me, that's vital. And with that, I would say physically, because if you don't have your health, that's it, right? You need to be healthy. You need to have a strong body to be able to forge a way forward. Whilst I understand that perfect health is like this luxury that I don't think hardly anyone have in this world, I also think that, doing everything you can to eat as best as you can, remove as much as possible anything that's harmful to your health in your life, everything in moderation, right? No extremes here. And doing a physical activity that feels good to you. If you are physically able, if you can move physically, and if you can engage with any form of physical activity, that is crucial. I am a long distance runner, and no, I didn't grow up doing sports. I had no freedom from the beginning, in the first part of my life. Couldn't do anything. But and about 8 years ago, almost, yeah, 8 years plus ago, I started to run from nothing. And it's an activity that doesn't cost me anything. It costs as much as little as you want to. I know people can spend money in pretty much anything these days, but it's possible to do it in the budget in a way that is sustainable. So, well, as sustainable as possible, right? And if you do have individuals in your life that are too antagonistic to this perspective you have, and you are able to perhaps, create some boundaries, because see, this is the thing. If you are trying to better your life or somehow create positive changes, but you have a lot of toxic influence around you, can be quite hard. And trust me, I have been there myself, and I'm not telling you how to live your life, but I think it comes a time in our life as an adult that we need to make choices, and we need to decide who we want really close to us and who we're gonna keep it, if we don't have any choice because it's a family member or it's a boss or so on, at arm's length. And by doing that work that I mentioned in other videos of emotional detachment, and as I said on this video, of building mental independence and being strong within yourself, you should be able to create an environment that is more supportive towards this goal that you have. And I feel that we live in a world that unfortunately have become so immediatist. Everybody wants results that is just like click a button and that's it, happen. Click 1, 2, 3, done. Everyone wants quick solutions, and whilst that is like, yeah, it would be nice, isn't it, if we could just click and things are resolved. But the reality is we need to take charge of our life, of our bodies, in our destiny as best as we can. And whilst there is a lot out there that we cannot control, we can control this vessel. You can control your body. You can control how you think. And you can control your emotions and make decisions that will support you on the long term. And it's all about the consistent steps that you take each day to take you there.